Yes, ma. All right, so let's get started with today's lesson. And I know that I'm going to just give you a bit of a recap that yesterday we were doing over here The Pains of Sleep by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and we completed our two stanzas. We talked about the pains of sleep as in the theme. What exactly is the complexity of the mind, and how we connected with the era, the time frame in which he was actually writing. His career was at stake, and there were some personality concerns, his habits, his own passion to write, but he was unable to do so. So the critics, the people were against him, not exactly like retaliating, but yes, he was losing some, in some ways his reputation, and that was a bit, a bit part of saddening for him. So we have over here the pains of sleep, but I will be surely continuing with the third stanza. However, I would want to introduce you to a war poem today. And the war poem has its own distinction and its kind when it comes to the theme of death. So we need to be doing a lot of stuff. Let's be very quick. Um, I think that I can do away with the third stanza, but at the same time, I'm waiting for more students to join in. So, Mahnur, how are you, beta? How are you, Mahnur?
I'm good, miss. Thank you. How are you?
You're good. I'm good. I'm good at the same time. I'm good. Do you both remember in any ways what was assonance and consonant sound? Assonance, anyone can tell me? Do you remember
Miss,
that?
those with the sounds of vowels, I think, and the
Absolutely. Hmm.
consonants had a really crisp sound with the k or like those sounds.
Okay, it could be plosive sound as well. So you can mention, I hope I have already shared this document with you. So, but for now, I will be starting off with the theme. I'm going to complete this last stanza towards the end. So let's have a quick look at the lesson for today. Aliza has joined us. Hello. Hello, Beta. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, miss. How are you?
Okay, I can hardly hear you, but yeah, you're there. So that's a good part. All right. So this poem is called Futility. Futility poem by Wilfred Owen. Make sure that your notebooks are right in front of you. You're jotting down some of the points. When you look at this background, what does it remind you of? Futility means waste of time, emptiness, any sort of like which is not worth spending time on. So, but you see this image, it's a sunrise, or you can interpret as a sunset. But what exactly is this image about? Any idea, any clue? Where do you see such um, an object being placed? In what situation? What is this thing?
Miss, it's a cannon. It's used in wars, I guess.
Yes, not guess exactly. It is used in the wars, it's a canon. So we are dealing today with a poem that is known as Futility. Futility poem is written by Wilfred Owen. You are supposed to be jotting down some of the points so that you should be able to write down some good, wholesome, a holistic analysis. Futility is a poem by Wilfred Owen. He was a British soldier during World War One. I am repeating, it was during the World War One. It was written in 1918, and the poem is considered to be an elegy. Now, those who don't know anything about an elegy, it is basically sort of a song or a poem written in the background or in the name of a person who has died, who has just passed away. This poem is also about an unnamed soldier lying dead in the snow in France. So I am going to make you launch into the poem. So there we have lying dead in the snow. So there is a soldier. And this image resonates with the poet's speaker. He's looking at his dead body and he's thinking to himself. He assesses and reassesses life's value, that death is inevitable, it is bound to happen. But do you think that one should, it's okay to sacrifice when you have patriotism, at the same time you're serving your country? But was this the day the clay grew tall? The clay is man, mankind. How we are talking about the wasteful idea of having a war. Why do we need to have war? So this is a question that has been asked. So there are students. Laiba Abbasi has joined us, and here we are. I'll just like to tell you, beta, that we are doing a poem which is called Futility. It's a war poem. Now, there is something, when you try to understand a poem, you really, really need to understand about, comprehend the poet himself. I always emphasize on the need of understanding the poet himself. So, Mahnur, I would ask you to read the slide, beta. This is about the poet.
Wilfred Owen is now regarded as one of the premier English poets of the First World War and a significant poetic voice of the 20th century. Witnessing firsthand the horrors of the Western Front, his verse draws on his love of nature and profound anti war sentiment, fused with his Christian heritage. Born out of an increasing realization of the disconnect between the view of the war at home and the harsh and gruesome realities of the battlefield, Owen's moving body of work has profoundly impacted generations of readers.
My dear, lovely literature students, you need to understand that when we question our life, when we question death, we always bring in our own religion into it. Now, in this case, we have Christianity. So he's referring to himself that being an anti war poet, why there is, he himself was a military officer, and he was given different checkpoints where he used to go and obviously report to the head office. And he's on a round and he is witnessing a dead body of a man whom he doesn't know. He is, anonymous soldier. So he's questioning also that, he's calling upon God, and he's asking, why do we have such, uh, you know let's say, the brutal reality of life, that someone has to die, but die like this in the midst of nowhere? He was supposed to be returning home. So over here, the focus is on anti-war sentiment, which are fused with his Christian heritage. And these ideas are born, they're given birth out of his awakening realization of the disconnect between the view of the war at home and the harsh and gruesome realities of the battlefield. We shall move on. What is the context? I would request Laiba, can you please read this slide, the two bullet points?
Owen's poetry was born out of the terrible realities of the First World War, which he experienced firsthand. Wilfred Owen's life was tragically cut short by gunfire 1 week before the end of the war.
This is so ironic, Laiba, Manur, Safat. And I have, yeah, Aliza, this is so tragic when it comes to the reality that the gunfire, due to that, I mean, war was about to end and he lost his life. So people still pity, and, it's kind of like shaking one's soul and asking why. In our life, do you think that there is the concept of fate and destiny? A lot of people say that when things don't happen, um, with your own intention or with your own desire, then people say, oh, that was already meant for me. It was something to do with my destiny. Do we actually believe in destiny and fate, which is uncontrollable, and we humans being the puppets in the hands of fate? Do you agree with this idea? Death will come. I mean, obviously, it is natural concept. It's a reality. So he's questioning death. He's He's making, and I'm making you think critically. Okay, let's move on. Some of the themes that you will be playing with when it comes to the identification of ideas, where you can use a lot of other ways to embed, incorporate certain expressions rather than saying war, war, war again. So Wilfred Owen is talking about war. You can say the theme of the poem is war, but you can say the pity of war, the horror of war, protest against war, injuries in war, weapons of war, death and burial and survivors. Because there is no actual concept of burial when it comes to the World War One and World War Two. There was this holocaust. It was savage and it was brutal. It was uncontrollable. So the themes are clear also. Is there any question over here? Because you haven't read the poem, so let me just give you a bit of an idea. You're looking at this slide, okay? So we're gonna go gradually. This is the very first stanza, and it starts like this. Move him into the sun, and there is a hyphen. So just imagine Wilfred Owen is the speaker, obviously, and he's looking at the dead body of the soldier in France, and it's cold, but the sun is right out there and its rays are passing through. So please remember that sun is a symbol of hope, it's a symbol of life. So I only want Aliza, can you please do me a favor reading the stanza only, beta? Can you read the stanza only?
Yes, miss. Move him to the sun, into the sun. Gently its touch awoke him once. At home, whispering of fields unsown. Always it woke him, even in France. Until this morning, and this is snow. If anything might rouse him now, the kind of old sun will know.
Thank you. Very good reading. In class, what happens that I ask my students to read all together. So we echo and we read it together so that it becomes more rhythmic and some sort of like it creates a vibe. So really looking forward for the physical classes. Really excited to meet you, inshallah, soon. And for now, I'm asking one by one each one of you. I would like to go once more. The true uh, flavor of reading you get when you read something, a text, twice. So we're going to read it twice, okay? Move him into the sun. As if, this is called imperative sentence. When you ask someone, close the door, right? This is an imperative sentence. When you're somewhat giving a command, because Wilfred Owen happens to be the what? The military officer, and he's on his round. So, and he says, move him into the sun, hyphen. Gently its touch awoke him once, at home whispering of fields unsown. Always it woke him, even in France, until this morning, and this is now. If anything might rouse him now, the kind old sun will know. So the connection of this cold body with the sun is being emphasized over here. Right after the first sentence, you have um, you have a caesura, and this is indicated by a hyphen. It says the sun could stand as a metaphor for the giver of life, or it might mean that the personification of the sun. The sun is personified over here, kind, old, sun, gentle. So we are giving this a human quality. We're calling sun gentle and kind, which contrasts with the brutality with war. So there is a contrast, a sharp contrast. Out there, there's um, inhumane acts of killing people, and over here we are calling upon and addressing the sun to take care of the body of basically this soldier. So the very first line begins with a hyphen. Why? You see the comma, you see this full stop, you see this comma right over here, and the lines are really short because people, when they are sad, they don't speak that much. He has, what does it create an effect of? It creates an effect of heaviness of the heart due to the idea of so many killings, right? Is it making sense? You're able to understand. I've only explained to you it is quite tightly punctuated with shorter lines. It begins with shorter line and somehow it swells with the idea of thinking. His mind almost swells with the idea of thinking. Now look over here with the first line. We're looking at the first line. Move him. So move, the poet begins the poem talking of a certain him. Him is third person singular pronoun. We don't know who he is. He could represent all soldiers damaged by war or represent a specific soldier. Now, I would request you not to use a lot of time suggest. You can say, because over here it also says suggest, you can say it represents, it implies. Okay, so this suggests he can't move himself and makes us wonder why. So, why? Why do you think? Because he's asking the other soldiers to protect him or put him into the light. Gently, its touch awoke him once. So we've got another idea overall.
Miss,
Yes, Beta Manur.
Miss, can you please repeat what you just said? My internet's not working properly.
Okay, I will just repeat it. We are talking about, I was about to give you this main idea regarding the depiction of futility in war. um I'm explaining you and I want you to write down. Don't copy from the screen. You don't have to worry about that. I just want you to write down what I'm explaining you. You know, Wilfred Owen being the poet, I mean a war poet, he welcomes war as a source of patriotism and heroism, but not a source of destruction, as in this case. And in this poem, he clearly depicts his pessimistic view towards war. What is the opposite of pessimism? Pessimism is a negative term or
Optimism.
is a optimism? So he's really pessimistic, right? In the very beginning, he is pessimistic and he's looking at the way how things have taken a turn, how things are, they're losing the people around him and how it's taking a toll on his mind. So at home whispering of fields and so on. Now this is basically suggests he was a farmer before he had to be a soldier, and also implies lost potential. The poet is sympathetic. He feels sympathy for the dead soldier and uses a kind and respectful tone to talk about him. So unsown fields could also mean a metaphor for his incomplete responsibility. He was supposed to be returning home and completing his duties towards his family. So it could be taken this way or it could be taken the other way. However, it should be convincing. Always, when it comes to, where's my pen? Okay, now this idea, always, this is beta an adverb of frequency. Adverb of frequency. Always. It shows the degree of continuation. It woke him. But this is the past tense. Now he's dead. Even in France, why France? Why not any other country? It says that mentioning France suggests the World War battlefield. I mean, he was given a responsibility to fight right over there. So why France specifically? Because of the setting, the location that has been given. So if I ask you, what is this poem all about? Your answer should be that write it down. I think I need to give you the idea of, without just further sharing all these annotations, I'm going to stop right over here so that you should be able to make some of the points yourself. All right, now I'm about to just share the screen. All right. Now, this is your complete poem. Okay, so that you can look at it in full size. All right. And this is exactly the style in which it is printed in the book also. So the first thing is, I want every one of you to quickly count the lines. How many lines do we have? There are two stanzas, right? There are two stanzas. Now you keep on making some of the bullet points. There are two stanzas. How many lines are there? How many lines?
7,
7 in each stanza. How many total lines are there?
14,
So there are 14 lines. All right. If you come, listen to this very carefully. If you come across a poem which has 14 lines, we call it a sonnet. In my very first class, I also mentioned it, that a sonnet is a 14-line poem. All right. And it elegizes an unnamed soldier lying dead in the snow in France. So it's kind of like sonnet. It it is considered as an elegy also. It's a sonnet with 14 lines. Elegy, a song, a poem written in the name of the person who has passed away. So you need to realize that how do you use the word futility also? Futility, the concept means something which is not worth it. And he's talking about futility of, what is this? Futility of war. It's not worthy. This is Caesura. All right. Gently. Gently is an adverb, a simple adverb, which is showing the gentle touch. Touch awoke him once. So can we say this is a tactile image? Tactile image. Just imagine the sun rays falling upon the soldier and, touching and brushing his skin, and he's saying, get up and wake, because you must have seen all those plants and living creatures, early in the morning, rising to their work, and over here the plants are, blossoming in the sunlight. So it's the symbol of life. That's what is he saying. And even in France, until this morning, until this snow. So this this is quite repeated, and we have snow, which is the symbol of death. In the world of literature, you have symbol of death. The kind old sun will know. So it's almost like he's being inquisitive, and he's questioning his own mind, and he's thinking the kind. These are the two adjectives which have been used to personify the sun. So the sun is being personified. What is the tone? How do you think the tone is all about? Hmm. Can anyone tell me? What is the tone? Is it serious? Tone is the voice of the poet. Is it sad? It's melancholic. It's melancholic, right? So slow and sad. The pace is going to be slow. The pace, all right? So we are looking over here. The pace of the poem is slow and steady. Because, almost he's taken aback and he doesn't know like what exactly. So the key image is the sun. Owen personifies the sun in the first stanza as kind, a human characteristic given to an inanimate object, which you think that sun's warmth brings benefit. The sun is also described as old, and the adjectives has human connotations, human quality, human connotation. These adjectives we are talking about, connotation, meaning. And almost asking to be made into the phrase. So, um, sun is a positive force, and its action is all about bringing to life the soldier as it does the seeds. This is going to be my second stanza. Now, I want someone to read the second stanza. I would ask Mahanur, please read the second stanza for us.
Okay, miss. Think how it wakes the seeds, woke once the clays of a cold star. Our limbs so dear achieved our sides, full nerved, still warm, too hard to stir. Was it for this the clay grew tall?
Hmm.
Oh, what made fatuous sunbeams toil to
Hmm.
break Earth's sleep at all?
Okay, I want you to pick up the bitterness. The bitterness with when it comes to when the person dies, the body becomes really cold, right? And because the warmth has been lost. So you realize that how this poem is connecting. Think how it wakes the seeds. Why this line is what is it trying to communicate? The sun is associated with the whole act of creation and generation, right? Seen almost as a divine entity. Sun, you hold an ultimate power to bring life to things, to objects, to some of the creation. So it's almost like seen given a divine quality, almost like a supreme characteristic, that you, sun, is involved in an act of creation and generation. So, and a lot of you, that is so true. A lot of cultures, there are religions which actually believe in the power of, the Son of God, or is in like, you know, the sun, in a sun God. I'm talking about the sun God. Yeah, they worship some. Thank you, Aliza, for saying that. So you do realize, so it's almost like he's giving a divine quality. Divine means holy, like divine, ultimate quality that has been given. And there is a strong emphasis. It follows the same structure as you see in the first line over here and right over here. So you get to see, and this is called beta. What do we call this? We call it a parallel between the caesuras. See, parallel structure follows in the same manner the caesura, because it almost makes him reflect and think and ponder really hard. That son, you once walked the clays of a cold star. How come you cannot wake this soldier? Our limbs so dear achieved our sides, full nerve, still warm, too hard to stir. My men are trying to move him, but why the soldier is too hard to stir? He is full nerved, still warm, a bit of warmth is still remaining. Was it? This is a bitter question that he is posing. The ethical, a moral question that he is posing to the reader. He's posing it to the reader and asking, was it for this the clay grew tall? This is euphemism. Euphemism is an indirect way of saying one thing to another. For example, clay over here symbolizes as the man, as the soldier. We're talking about human. All right? Clay is indirectly referred to human. Oh, what made fatuous sunbeams toil to break Earth's sleep at all? He doesn't take any pause over here, and he begins with a dramatic beginning, like it's more emphasizing. Like he takes a bit of pause and then he says, oh, what made, it's uppercase, as if he's mourning the death. He feels painful at the same time. He's miserable at the idea of the war. And this is written in the past tense at the same time. What made fatuous sunbeams joy? If sun, you cannot be moved by witnessing such a dead body. The soldier happens to be the son of someone. Why can't you be moved and pour your sun rays upon him? Why can't you move him? He's so bitter. He's bitter over here. The sun wakes the planet and it seeds into life and vigor, right? The sun clearly does not accord with the traditional attributes of the Christian God. I mean, they don't believe in the sun, S-U-N, sun God, right? So over here, Bible states, according to Christianity, that it is able to give and take life, as well as restore life after death. So it's quite a relatively short poem, and 7 lines have been given, but the act of waking, getting up, and Owen may have been thinking of the New Testament verse. There is a New Testament, I'm referring to an allusion. Just hold on. Let me cross this. Let me move the screen a bit. Yeah, this happens to be a kind of a comprehensive analysis, but I would want my students to write down some of the points. While writing this poem, Beta, Owen had strong religious beliefs, right? Strong religious beliefs. And he was inspired. He was inspired by the New Testament verse, by the New Testament, by the New Testament verse, and which is right over here. Awake, O sleeper, and arise from the dead. Awake, O sleeper, and arise. And arise. You see, when he was on the battlefield, he had to um, connect himself to God. And obviously, because you're constantly dealing with hopelessness and the trauma, um, the disordered life that you live at the battlefield. So, this is perhaps one of the inspiration. And we are saying Owen may have been thinking of a very well known New Testament verse: Awake, O sleeper, and arise from the dead. And arise from the dead. And Christ will shine on you. And Christ will shine on you. This is written in inverted commas and close. I hope you are writing down this. And so he was really much inspired that sun can be of help to him. Unfortunately, I'm adding um, a blank page over here. I'll do this thing that I can um, make sure to save with these annotations my poem, so that you should be able to look at in case if you have missed out anything. So the problem lies over here. Unfortunately, I'm using unfortunately that, but the sun cannot, do what Owen desires. So this is ironic. This is ironic. Ironic means reversal of expectations. He wanted so desperately for him to come back to life. Um, and so he cries fatuous sunbeams, as if the sun isn't trying hard enough. Fatuous, as if he's complaining, what is going to move you, sun? So fatuous is added over here. The sun, as if sun is not trying, is not trying too hard, right? It's not trying too hard. And, it's unfeeling and careless. It's, acting carefree. So there you get to see a lot of bitterness. There is bitterness in his tone. He becomes complaint. Um, and therefore he says, now this all symbolizing life as meaningless. I mean, the meaninglessness of life. So this is the poem which deals with, now I'm bringing you right over here, which says, was it for this the clay grew tall? One question, two question, three question, one, two, and three. And these are called rhetorical questions. I have a question from you people. Why do you think these three questions have been used? To make the reader feel what, beta? कौन मुझे बताएगा? Who's gonna tell me? Was it for this day? Our limbs so dear achieved our sights. So wow, what kind of an impression it makes? What impression it makes upon you?
It's making us feel and think that is war really necessary, and the gruesome side, like effects of the war on the people or on the soldiers. It's making us feel pity for them, and it's making us think about, is it really necessary for a person or a soldier to go through such a trauma.
So the meaninglessness of war, and Aliza has written something over here which says, making the reader also ask to himself about war. Yes, he is not only questioning himself, but he's questioning the people out there, who the higher authority. It's almost like a message being communicated to, the people. So yes, um, this entire poem, beta, is loaded with natural imagery. If you have noticed at any point, so you keep on making the bullet points, like natural imagery. Natural imagery. Can you give me a few examples? Can you give me a few examples? Natural imagery. For example, we have got from nature, right? Seeds. In the first place, we have sun, right? And then we have even the cold star. We are talking about the planet Earth, right? And then we have the seeds. So what do we understand? And then the snow as well, right? The snow that we are talking about. So what impression to be given? These all collectively combine together to create a symbol of death. And it also intensifies, the whiteness of the snow echoes the corpses around, the coldness, the cold heartedness of people. So that's how this entire poem has been looked at. um, I would also request you to please keep a note of one thing that I gave you, that this is a poem about symbolism, the symbol of the sun, the snow, um, the plowed fields of England, and you can make up a spidergram with the sun written or drawn, and you can write down some of the images, and you can further make a revision sheet for yourself. This is going to be really helpful for you. I have already talked about the themes, which is waste of life, questioning the meaning of life, right? Questioning the meaning of life. And one complex idea that you can deal with, it is going to be a paradox. Now, can we just write down a paradox? Are we able to understand the main idea of the poem? Are we able to understand the main idea of the poem when it comes to futility? Have we understood better? All right, thank you. Can I have more responses so that I can be at least relieved that my students, my lovely dear literature students, have been able to understand? I know, Laiba Beta, you just rejoined us. So it's fine. The class is on recording. You can easily watch it on YouTube as well. And you can always take some, help at least. Okay. So I'm really happy that you people are saying yes, that you, mashallah, do understand all of this. I'm just going to get you with one more idea. And this is your homework, and you can do it yourself even. But before I give you homework, I need to explain you the paradox in the poem. The paradox, what do we mean by paradox? It's a contradiction. It's a contradiction. What kind of contradiction? That sun is supposed to be the source of life. But the contradiction is, it isn't waking up the soldier. It isn't reviving the life of the soldier. So it's almost like he calls upon the perception of the poet. He calls upon the sun, and then he becomes bitter towards the sun. So there's a contradiction. He calls the sun gentle, kind, and old, and then he charges at the sun, that why you can't help me? Why there has to be this senseless death? Why can't you stop it? You have the power to give life. Why don't you now give life? So it's a contradiction, that it almost has no power over death. So it's a contradictory idea. Your thoughts are clashing. You said something different in the beginning, and then you're saying exactly the opposite of what you said in the later. The contradiction takes place between the two statements provided by the writer or the poet. He said something positive and about the same thing, sun, and then he said exactly contradictory about the sun. This is the paradox. All right, this is the paradox of life and death. Paradox of life and death. He's contradicting it. Um, and then futility, I've already mentioned, is an anti-war poem. It's powerfully evoking the pity of war with its anger. You do get the sense of anger towards the end when he asks questions. Why this? Why that? Why? So he's almost like becoming restless. And however, in the beginning, he was a bit, um, soft. Why am I saying? Let me just go back. Why am I saying that he was a bit soft? Please notice the sounds. You see the sun once, but as sown, whispering fields, but then is his, and then you have snow, you have sun, all right, and then you have rouse. So you look the softness in the tone, and stone, sun, snow, um, these are sibilant sounds. Move him, be gentle, at home, until, if, conditional sentence, if anything might rouse him now, the kind old son will know. And will is, it shows the powerful conviction. It shows determination, ultimate determination, that it will, he has a strong hope with that. So you can say that we've got soft sounds in the first stanza, all right, but when it comes to the second one, if you realize, apart from this s, right, it's towards the end, right, but you do come across a lot of consonant sounds as well, like clay, clays, right, achieved. These are consonants. Then dear, think, woke, wo, full nerve. a lot of like hard sounds. So soft sounds more prominent in the first stanza and hard sounds. Why hard sound in the in the later stanza? Who's gonna tell me? It's almost like in the first stanza he's praying and he's praying to sun and he's calling upon the nature responsibility to perform its task, and then over here bitterness shown. Yes, yes, he's angry, so he's using hard sounds. Cold star sides, but too hard. See, hard to stir. Grutal g sound, which is indicative of difficulty. G is difficult to pronounce. G is easier to pronounce. So when there is a word which is pronounced with g, that means it's a struggle. You know, was it for this clay grew tall? With all that struggle and the responsibilities, the duties, the training, that, you know, the suffering for this day to lose it in the battlefield? Is it only worth it? Futility of war, it's futile. Why are we wasting our time and life over here? So it's almost like it makes him question, and it he's making the reader question um, about the battle. Is there anything remaining over here? Yes, my homework. Now this is going to be some before you get this, because your resource pack beta has already been given to the college and they will be providing you, but I wanted to show you that we have a whole collection of this poem. I'm sharing the soft copy so that you at least have the poem in front of you and you can easily you know, refer to the analysis, so that at least when I'm doing it you do have a poem with you. Because on internet what happens that you get a different style and structure of the poem, and that doesn't make any sense as such. So you always need to look at. So if I need to tell you very you know, closely, why are we beginning with short line and then we are writing longer lines? Shorter line, and then it kind of like, it's almost like his thinking which is swelling up his mind, and it's almost like weather move him into the sun, as if he was standing at a bit distance gently and he is nearing the soldier's body. So it's almost like zoom out and zooming in effect. I repeat, the longer lines show a bit of closeness to the dead body, and then it slowly goes away. It's almost like he's looking at the sun in a direction and he's coming closer to the dead body. Think how it wakes the sun. So you can always comment on the structure in this way. Um, I've talked about the natural images, the sun is personified, um, the imagery, the tactile image that we have talked about. Okay, so my question is, for your homework, you have all the resources. I will be sharing the PPT. I will be sharing this document. I mean, all of that you must have seen even yesterday. So the question is very simple question. Write about the way, all right? Write about the way. I'm not giving you exam style question right now. I'm giving you a bit to understand and write yourself about the poem. Write about the way in which Owen links pity and futility in this poem. Links pity and pity towards a soldier, right? Pity towards the loss of various, you know, soldiers or people, and futility and futility in this poem. In short, this is going to be your analysis. I mean, apathy and futility is a running theme, and they both are linked with the soldier and the war, right? So, in short, you will be writing down, do your own research, and a good A level student is one who has a very good research skill. So, you combine my notes, you add your own flavor to your analysis the way you like. I'm sharing the sample response of the analysis, don't you worry about it, but write your own way, give your voice to your writing. So this is going to be your work, and that is it for today. Any question, please? Okay, Safat, can you please turn on your mic? Very clear. Thank you so much for giving me always the feedback. Feedback makes my day. So you do understand. Okay, Laiba, I know that you will take a bit of time, but I'm sure you do understand the concept. I'm all here to help you because I love this subject and I want my students to love it equally also. Work hard and you were gonna enjoy. I'm gonna give you a twist in the different theme. Previously, we were doing some other sorts like pains of sleep, I have introduced you towards the war poem. So don't worry about it. I think I'm missing out on one aspect. Let me just share. Um, I think the question is very clear also. Yes, last but not the least. Yeah. The form and structure, the structure of the poem, I have already explicitly, I've explained you, but explicitly I've described over here. So right now I'm sharing the PPT on the group, okay, and the document which we just annotated. All right. Thank you so much. Take good care of yourselves. That's it for today.
The office, miss.
Allah Hafiz.
Laugh is this.
Allah Hafiz.